Okay, so let's then turn our attention to the men's singles semi-finals. Nandan Bal, former coach of the Indian tennis team, joins me now from Mumbai. Nandan is also chairman of selectors for Indian tennis. Nandan, just one member of the big three playing at Melbourne Park this year, and Rafael Nadal is in the semis. I did ask Stefanos Tsitsipas a few weeks ago about the change of guard in men's tennis, and it's getting pretty obvious now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, first of all, with Djokovic and Roger both not playing, obviously there was going to be only one guy in the semis or in the draw amongst the top three. I mean, the big three. That being said, I think it's very credible that Nadal is still out there in the semis. I mean, hats off to his fitness levels, hats off to his sheer mentality of just trying 100% every time that he gets on court. That even at this age, he's out there in the semis. The only difference here is he's actually surrounded by a bunch of guys who are 25 or less. I think Berrettini is about 25, and so is Medvedev, and Tsitsipas is even younger.
Nandan, before I get into those matches in detail, we have had, three of the quarterfinals going into 5 sets. Sometimes we're perhaps carried away by sentiment and we remember Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic sort of because of the imprint in our minds. But the quality over the last few days of the tennis that's been played has been absolutely top-notch.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, without doubt, as Tsitsipas had said earlier, there is a change of guard. And I think we're going to see these three guys out there for a long, long time to come. And to these three guys, you're going to have to add the Spanish kid, Alcaraz, because I think he's just so full of promise. So, these 4 or 5 guys, I think, so is going to be Felix Alisami, the kind of tennis more than the tennis, the kind of composure he showed, even after dropping 2 sets, he was still out there fighting in the 5th set. Right up to the end, he was composed. So these 5 or 6, I think, should be the nucleus for the next 10 years now. That's what I feel.
Okay, first up then, Nadal versus Matteo Berrettini. Now on paper, Nandan, seemingly no contest. But Nadal admitted to losing 4 kgs in the heat against Shapovalov, and Berrettini is 10 years younger. How do you look at this one?
Well, first of all, like you said, on paper, without doubt, Nadal should be the favorite to win that. But I certainly have my reservations on that. Well, apart from the fact that Berrettini is 10 years younger and he's got the legs and he's got the speed and power, the other thing that one notices over yesterday Shapovalov's match against Nadal, when was the last time we saw Nadal lose 2 sets after winning the first 2? I mean, it's a great credit that he hung in there into the 5th. But, for a player like Nadal, who's in theory much better than the guy who is across the net from him, Shapovalov, for him to lose that 3rd and 4th set, I think was an indication that somewhere maybe the age is catching up, maybe his, fitness is a little in doubt, maybe his mind is a little in doubt, somewhere you're going to get tired, and you've been doing the same thing in and out for the last 20 years. Somewhere something's going to give way, and somebody like a Berrettini is not going to allow Nadal to push him over. He's going to keep pushing. He's going to keep hurting Nadal. And so if it goes to a long set, 2 5 sets back to back, I mean, one would have to call Nadal. I know I'm going to hurt a lot of people by saying this, but one would have to call Nadal the GOAT.
It's interesting you say that, Nandan, because the champion players always find a way to win. I mean, Nadal himself found a way against Shapovalov. And now Felix Auger-Aliassime had his chances against Daniil Medvedev, but the Russian triumphed. As things stand, do you think the world number 2 and the de facto top seed is the favorite with 3 matches left in the men's singles?
I think so. I think at this point in time, Medvedev would have to be considered the favorite. I mean, the way he hung in there, he was completely I think he was out of touch. He was out of form, and yet he found a way to come back from 2 sets. He was somewhere in that 3rd set, if I'm not wrong. He was down love 30 at 4-all or 5-all, hung in there, down a match point in the 4th set, hung in there, played his biggest tennis actually at the end of that 4th set, played his biggest tennis. And then you have that fifth set where you were struggling in the first 2 or 3 games. And once he got that done with, he just took off and actually got his form back, got his tennis back, and, came out victor. See, this is what I always say. The champions, they know how to find a way. If their tennis is not working, their legs will work. If offense is not working, defense will work. So till they get their rhythm back, they will keep, trying to find that correct brand of tennis that they need to play to win a match. And when they find it, then they shut the door on their opponent. Then they don't give the opponent a chance. On the other hand, you have this young kid, Alisemi, who had the match in his pocket. I mean, he was all over Medvedev, and yet at the crunch moments, I think I got the feeling that he took his foot off the pedal a little, and that allowed Medvedev to get back in.
And that's something Tsitsipas has said as well when he faced Djokovic in that French Open final, that he got too defensive. Perhaps he's learned from that, because in the Grand Slams, Nandan, you also look at how momentum is built up. The other three have been tested in the quarters. Tsitsipas was taken to 4 and 5 in the earlier rounds, and he then handed out a masterclass against Jannik Sinner.
I'm actually just wondering if he's peaked maybe a match or two too early, because he did play incredible tennis yesterday. I mean, he really did. Sinner's a great player. He's going to be one of those guys that you're going to have to watch out over the next few years. But the way he was handled by Tsitsipas yesterday, I mean, that really was a masterclass, like you said. At the end of the day, if I really honestly am not sure if Tsitsipas can kind of find that form over 5 sets in a semi-final and then follow it up with the final. I'm really not very sure about that. So at this point, I would have to say Medvedev.
Okay, not sure what he has to say to it, but there's a bit of philosopher in Tsitsipas, and he says it himself because of his Greek heritage. Now, he's gone and fixed himself up. He's come back stronger, and you get a feeling that he's determined to turn the tragedy of the French Open into a triumph. He has a 2-1 record against Medvedev in the last couple of years since 2019. And one has to remember, though, that Medvedev did beat him at this stage in 2021.
Yes, also, I think Medvedev, if you look at his last 2 or 3 matches, he's just come across so mentally tough. And that's not going away. I also, unfortunately, I think Tsitsipas, I mean, not unfortunately, but I think Tsitsipas is going to have the crowd backing against Medvedev, because the way Medvedev's press conference, I mean, not the press conference, the post-match conference went on court, I don't think he made too many friends in that crowd there. So somewhere along the way, Medvedev against Tsitsipas is probably going to fight Tsitsipas and possibly the crowd too. So that's going to be a little additional burden for him. But like I said, the man is just mentally, after Djokovic, I think he would have to be the next toughest guy mentally.
Yes, we always seem to look at the results and we forget the mental side of it. Thanks for bringing it up, Nandan. The question you got to ask yourself, do you have it in yourself to negotiate championship point and then fight back? Thank you, Nandan, for helping us set this up.